The twin suns were setting over the crystal forests of Pandora Prime when Sudi walked alone to the edge of the sacred cliff. His blue skin glowed faintly in the dying light. Behind him, the sounds of his suffering people filled the air. Children crying, elders praying, warriors sharpening weapons they knew would not be enough. For 300 cycles, the Kalar Corporation had stripped their world of everything precious. The humans came with their massive machines and their weapons that could burn entire villages in seconds. They wanted the glowing minerals that grew beneath the roots of the home trees. They wanted the crystal flowers that powered their starships. They did not care that these things were sacred. They did not care that the Na'vi had lived in harmony with their world for 10,000 generations. Tsuti closed his golden eyes and felt the wind carry the prayers of his people. He was not born to be a leader. His father had been a simple healer, and his mother had weaved the sacred cloths that told the stories of their ancestors. But war had taken the true leaders. Disease brought by the humans had claimed the rest. Now only Suti remained to guide what was left of the 12 great tribes. 3,000 Na'vi. That was all that remained from a population that once numbered in the millions. 3,000 souls hiding in the last untouched corner of their dying world, waiting for the final assault that everyone knew was coming. The human general, Marcus Stone, had given them an ultimatum. Surrender the location of the Heart Crystal, the source of all life energy on Pandora Prime, or face complete extinction. The Heart Crystal was hidden deep beneath the oldest home tree. It was the soul of the planet itself. If the humans took it, Pandora Prime would die within a single generation. Every plant, every animal, every Na'vi would wither and fade. But if they refused, Stone would unleash his orbital weapons. He would turn the last sanctuary into a sea of fire. Tsudi had 3 days to give his answer. He had spent those days in meditation, seeking wisdom from the ancestors. He had climbed to the peak of Spirit Mountain, where the connection to the Great Mother was strongest. He had listened to the whispers of the wind and the songs of the crystal trees. And slowly, a terrible understanding had formed in his mind. There was a way to save his people. There was a way to drive the humans away forever. But the price was beyond anything he had ever imagined. The ancient texts spoke of a ritual called the final bonding. In the earliest days of the Na'vi, when great threats endangered the world, a chosen leader could merge their consciousness with the heart crystal itself. They would become one with the planet, feeling every root and stone and drop of water as their own body. And with that power, they could command the world itself to rise against its enemies. But the merging was permanent. The leader who performed the ritual would cease to exist as an individual. Their mind would dissolve into the vast consciousness of Pandora Prime. They would feel everything, be everywhere, for eternity. But they would never again walk among their people. Never again embrace their loved ones. Never again laugh or cry or dream their own dreams. It was not death. It was something beyond death. Something that even the bravest Na'vi had always feared. Sudi had not told anyone of his plan. He knew they would try to stop him. His mate, Naderi, would throw herself at his feet and beg him to find another way. His daughter, young Kira, who had just seen her 10th cycle, would never understand why her father had to leave. His war brother, Jake, the human who had chosen to become Na'vi, would insist on taking his place. But this was not their burden to carry. Tsuti was the leader. The responsibility was his alone. He opened his eyes and looked at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, the human warships waited. Somewhere up there, General Stone sat in his command chair, confident that the primitive aliens would bow to his power. The general did not understand the Na'vi. He thought them simple creatures who worshiped trees and talked to animals. He had no idea what they were truly capable of. Tsuti smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had accepted his fate. He turned and walked back toward the village. The great home tree rose before him, its bioluminescent leaves casting blue and green light across the ground. This tree had stood for 50,000 cycles. It had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. It had sheltered countless generations of Na'vi children. And deep beneath its roots, the heart crystal pulsed with the life force of an entire world. The village was quiet when he arrived. Most of the people were gathered in the central clearing, preparing for what they believed would be their final battle. Young warriors painted their faces with the symbols of their clans. Elders blessed weapons with ancient prayers. Mothers held their children close, memorizing every detail of their small faces. Suti moved through them like a ghost. He stopped to touch the shoulder of an old warrior who had fought beside his father. He knelt to look into the eyes of a young girl who reminded him of Kira. He pressed his forehead against the trunk of the home tree and felt its ancient heartbeat match his own. Then he descended into the roots. The path was narrow and dark. Few knew it existed. The entrance was hidden behind a waterfall of crystal water, and the tunnel beyond was guarded by spirits that only responded to the blood of true leaders. Suti felt their presence as he walked. Cold fingers of ancient consciousness brushing against his mind, testing him, judging him, finding him worthy. The heart crystal sat in a cavern at the very center of Pandora Prime. It was larger than he had imagined. Larger than the Great Council Hall. Larger than anything made by mortal hands. Its surface shifted through every color that existed, and many that had no name. Energy radiated from it in waves that Suti could feel in his bones, in his blood, in his soul. He stood before it for a long moment, gathering his courage. "Great Mother," he whispered, "I come to offer myself. Accept my life in exchange for the lives of my people. Let me become your vessel. Let me be the shield that protects them from the darkness." The crystal pulsed. A tendril of light reached out toward him. Suti felt no fear, only peace. He thought of Naderi. He thought of her smile and her laughter, and the way she looked at him when she thought he was not watching. He hoped she would understand. He hoped she would tell Kira that her father loved her more than all the stars in the sky. He thought of Jake, the human who had become more Na'vi than many who were born to it. Jake would lead the people now. Jake would keep them safe. He thought of his own childhood, running through the crystal forests with his brothers, learning to ride the great flying creatures, listening to his grandmother tell stories of the ancestors. So many beautiful memories. So much love. The light touched his chest. It was warm, like the embrace of everyone he had ever loved, all at once. And then Suti began to dissolve. It was not painful. It was like falling into a warm ocean. His consciousness expanded outward in all directions at once. He felt the roots of every tree. He felt the heartbeat of every creature. He felt the prayers of his people rising like smoke toward the sky. He felt everything, and he understood. He understood why the humans had come. They were dying. Their own world was ruined beyond repair. They needed the resources of other worlds to survive. They were not evil. They were desperate. But their desperation had made them blind to the suffering they caused. It did not matter now. Suti had power beyond anything they could imagine. He reached up through the ground. He felt the metal feet of the human machines crushing the sacred soil. He felt the pollution of their factories poisoning the air. He felt the pain of every Na'vi who had been killed by their weapons. And he was angry. The ground began to shake. Not just near the village. Everywhere, across the entire planet. The crystal forest swayed. The mountains groaned. The rivers reversed their flow. In orbit, General Stone watched in horror as his sensors went haywire. Energy readings spiked to impossible levels. The planet itself seemed to be waking up. "What is happening?" he demanded. No one could answer. On the surface, roots exploded from the ground like massive tentacles. They wrapped around human machines and crushed them. They tore through walls and buildings. They reached for the sky with impossible speed. The crystal trees began to glow, brighter and brighter. until they were like pillars of pure light rising from the surface of the world. The light merged into a single beam that shot upward through the atmosphere. It struck the human fleet like the fist of an angry god. Shields failed instantly. Hulls ruptured. Weapon systems went dark. Ship after ship began to fall from the sky, caught in the grip of forces that human science could not explain. General Stone screamed orders that no one could follow. His flagship shook around him. Warning lights flashed. His crew ran in panic. And then a voice filled his mind. A voice that was both one and many. A voice that was ancient beyond measure, but also somehow young. A voice that carried the weight of an entire world. "You came to take what was not yours," the voice said. "You caused pain beyond measure, but I will not destroy you. I will let you live. Go. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that Pandora Prime is protected. Tell them that if they ever return with violence in their hearts, there will be no mercy." The fleet was thrown outward, pushed by invisible hands toward the edge of the solar system. The ships tumbled helplessly, unable to fight against forces that seemed to mock the laws of physics. And on the surface, the Na'vi watched in wonder. The great trees slowly dimmed. The ground stopped shaking. The rivers found their natural courses again. But everything was different. The air felt cleaner. The light felt warmer. The connection to the Great Mother felt stronger than ever before. Nateri fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She felt him. She felt Suti in everything around her. In the wind, in the soil, in the leaves that brushed her cheek like a gentle hand. "Father?" Kira whispered, looking around with wide eyes. "Father, where are you?" The wind wrapped around her like an embrace. A voice that was almost familiar whispered in her ear. "I am everywhere, little one. I am always with you. I will always protect you." Jake stood among the people, watching the last of the human ships vanish into the distance. He understood what Suti had done. He understood the sacrifice that had been made. And he swore an oath in that moment. He would honor that sacrifice. He would lead the people well. He would build a future worthy of the gift they had been given. The Na'vi were free at last. The years that followed were years of healing. The wounds left by the humans slowly closed. The forests grew back stronger than before. The tribes reunited and rebuilt their ancient traditions. Children were born who knew nothing of war. Elders passed peacefully, surrounded by the love of their families. And always the presence of Suti watched over them. He was the rain that fell on the crops. He was the wind that carried the seeds to new soil. He was the light that guided lost travelers home. He was the dream that came to troubled sleepers, reminding them that they were never alone. Sometimes, late at night, Nateri would climb to the highest branch of the home tree and look at the stars. She would feel a warmth beside her, a presence that needed no body to be real. "I miss you," she would whisper. And the stars would seem to brighten, just for a moment, just enough to let her know that he heard, that he was there. That love did not end with the boundaries of flesh and blood. The Na'vi told the story of Suti for generations. They sang songs about his courage. They painted murals showing his sacrifice. They taught their children that true leadership meant being willing to give everything for those you loved. And Pandora Prime continued to turn around its twin suns, protected, blessed, free.